Okay, I think we're going to get started. We have a good group of people here. Thank you all for making time this late in the day. We wanted to offer a couple of options for you to be able to meet and hear what we're hoping to do in the next few months and weeks, all of it with your input as we go forward. I just wanted to set up a little bit of the background for this, and then Jonathan will lead us through the rest of the presentation, and we'll be piggybacking with each other. Feel free to put in your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to all of your questions at the end. And if you miss anything, Chuck is trying to keep track of the questions online and will hopefully flag it for us. So I am Daniel Singh. I'm the new director at Metro Arts. I've been here all of about 6 weeks now in Nashville, and I'm so excited to be here with this really talented staff and look forward to working and serving all of the artists and arts organizations in Nashville. To give you a little bit of background of why we started all these changes was based on your feedback. Years of grant reports, final reports where grantees were asking for changes or giving us information and the trends we observed over these grant applications as well. So based on those recommendations, that's been the bedrock of where we're making these recommended changes. The pandemic has shown us that change is possible and needed, and that we can do it in a quick turnaround as well. So that has been another source of our change. Trends and best practices in grant making have changed from hierarchical, panel-driven, staff or commission-driven to a more shared approach in grant making. So that's also something that's changing in the field across philanthropy and government funding bodies. And then this approach also helps us partner with the mayor and the council on how to invest in arts and equity. Most of you probably know that the mayor has launched his participatory budget process as a pilot this year. And we are kind of modeling our work based on what he has put out in the field as well. I wanted to assure all of you that you will be part of this change. We won't make any change without your input. And we'll be giving you more details of how you'll be involved in the change as we go deeper into the presentation. So in no part of this will we be looking to cut funding. Our goal is to increase or at least keep funding where it is for everyone while making it easier to apply for the funding process. So that's a little bit about the intro, and I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan, who's going to lead us through the rest of the.
I'll warn you now, I drank coffee earlier today, and it's wearing off, obviously. So I'm Jonathan Sad. If y'all don't know me, I've come back a few months ago. Learning a lot of new organizations and learning about our process now, and I'm very excited about the opportunity of the changes that we're considering, and again, we do really want your input. So historical trends and issues. Some of the concerns we've had in the past are competitive grant making causes instability with revenues. Awards are distributed based on panel scores. Scores may change cycle to cycle. The applicants compete practicing a variety of different artistic genres that do not allow direct comparison. This creates an apples to oranges comparison. Like every organization is doing something different, and to be able to put everybody into the same pot and say that everybody one form of art, one art form is different or better than another is kind of it's not healthy. Competitive grant making requires excessive paperwork and processes, requires grantees to scale down grant proposals such as revised budgets. So under this proposal, we're going to try to do away with revised budgets and a lot of the extra paperwork that we currently require. Competitive grant making does not allow increased support for smaller organizations. Our process is confusing and unapproachable. So when we look at DEI and all the things where we need to create a more accessible process, we know that our own process is quite often the deterrent. You know, when somebody doing quite often. That's what we're trying to make our process more. Historical trends. Ian, is Ian here? Because Ian usually likes to speak to this.
I am here.
Do you want to
Yes,
speak to this graph?
Yeah, so basically this is just showing that there's been a historical peaks and valleys through our funding levels, and it's just been caused by variations in grants, variations in funding, and it really causes problems for having like stable funding for each organization tier. And we're looking at ways to address that so organizations stay stable. And it's been an issue just through this and continuing on from this time period.
Great. Thanks, Ian.
So what we're looking at right now is we're going to stop the competitive grant. If each organization trying to compete against one another, you're not competing against one another. The organization gets within certain categories. So, and we're looking at changing our categories from.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yes.
Jonathan, your sound's cutting in and out if you want to change it to your computer instead of the owl for some reason, or
Wait, actually, let me put the owl closer. Otherwise,
Okay.
we'll have feedback in the room.
Okay.
So organizational small is that's up to 100 grand in annual revenue. Our organizational medium will be 100,000 to 500,000 in annual revenues, and organizational large will be 500,000 and above. And this will be based on our 990 forms or in your audit or financial statement. So we're trying to look at ways to do this where you're not creating lots of extra information that you don't already have, that's not already readily available to the organization. We don't want you creating documents just for our sake. And we're looking at, well, we are very, I encourage every organization to be, have a profile within Giving Matters. We're no longer going to require that as a part of the grant panel review process. And part of that is because it still can be an obstacle for smaller organizations, new organizations to create the Giving Matters profile. It's still, it's something else that, and it's not always, it's not completely necessary for our needs. So, but also when we add these different things in, we always have to be aware that it opens up audit issues for us. So having additional information, if it's not there, it opens up audit problems for us down the road. So this is to make things a lot easier and simpler all the way around. But again, I would encourage organizations to still maintain their Giving Matters profile and still look for additional funding from Community Foundation and other funders, such as,
The other thing we wanted to kind of piggyback here is that I really want me and my staff, or I'll say I am committing to having me and my staff coming out and being with you and the arts organizations in the field, getting to know you at your events rather than reading 26 pages of report for every grant we give out. So I think that's the back end side of it. Also, we really want to go back to establishing relationships and attending events and focusing on the qualitative analysis as much as the quantitative work we've been focusing on so far.
We're looking to reduce the application requirements for small and medium organizations. We're going to stop requiring budgets for operating grants. So if you have a flat amount, we're not going to need to move the requirement of everything you do within your grant.
Jonathan, it's cutting in and out again.
It is.
Yeah.
Is it just when Jonathan speaks?
Maybe. I think so.
There, it does give feedback. If we pull it back, does it give Just talk louder. Does that help? Clear. Stop requiring the matching funds. Again, that's because your entire operational grant, your operational, your entire budget is a match in a sense. This way, we take it out and it removes it from our auditing process. A lot easier and simpler for all. In our grant application. Hear me?
Cutting in and out again.
I'm sorry. Give us 1 second. Maybe I'll take off the owl and then we'll just use. Oh,
Maybe we don't
okay.
need the owl. We love this new gadget called the owl, but okay. Are we back at it? What's that?
Give us 1 second. Will you mute yourself?
I'm on mute. I'm mute.
Good. Okay. Well, the third time, maybe this will work.
Okay. Can y'all hear me or not?
It's good. Yeah. Chuck
Okay.
said good. Yes.
Okay, so grant applications will be simplified and the panel review applications on eligibility basis and provide organizational feedback. So your score, we're still going to have a review process and a panel process, but it's more about our purchasing process and it's about giving you feedback as organizational support feedback. The score will not the scoring will not impact the amount you get other than an up and down vote of whether you'll be funded or not. Just to make sure you're eligible and you're following all the requirements as an organization. It's not going to, the scoring will not affect the amount you get received. So we're also under review the way in which we look at your closeout materials and the data collection and the reporting that can be reduced. We know that it's a lot of information for you to collect and we are questioning what is really relevant and what is really needed. So we're going to be looking at how to reduce that as much as possible. And even our monthly reporting right now is excessive. And it haunts me that anybody is having to stay up at night to get that turned in every month. And I apologize for that, but I know what you go through just to submit information to us. And I would hate to see that it just goes into a file folder somewhere and nothing gets done with it. So we're asking everyone, we're asking for the full gamut as to what information is needed, where does it go, what's required, and does it really help us in our calls and help us in receiving additional funding each year within our metro government. So we're also going to ask our grantees if they have an equity statement or a commitment or have one within the next 2 years. We may consider a standard one that you may want to adopt, or we encourage you to create your own and adopt by your own board.
I think we'll have a set of prompt questions
Okay.
rather than a standard one.
Okay,
So you can craft your own.
Craft your own. So we're still committed to our equity, inclusion, and diversity within our programming and everything we do, and we encourage that of our organizations as well. So we're also looking at Thrive, which is basically our project grants. So how do we increase the number of grants? How do we make it more accessible? Right now, we're looking at 3 different categories. Murals, we're gonna create, all these murals have always been an option there, but we're gonna try to make it more simplified and a little easier and with a little more guidance, so that we have stronger projects developed within this program. So we're also looking at community-based arts projects and touring projects. And they all are requiring community partners, or we support those.
Recommending.
Recommending.
We're not requiring, recommended.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So our murals and community public art projects, a tool for community placemaking and a way to directly invest in council districts that may not have a traditional space for public art on public land. Of course, right now our public art program is for our own metro properties. So this is to go outside on private properties and allow programming on private properties and hopefully within districts that are already served. It'll utilize our own mural guide, which we already have in place as a guiding foundation, and we're hoping that we can also help in connecting our own metro entities. You know, if somebody needs help with permitting, or directing them to the right government entities and the right agencies to help them to have a successful project. Sometimes you have to close down roads. Sometimes you have to have additional access to different areas and communities, properties. And so this is where we're going to try to help guide and give a little more support to have some strong community public art projects. Community-based art projects. We'll support artist-led community-based art projects that include collaborations between artists and community partners and organizations. This is an area, again, we've been supporting within Thrive, but we're hoping to make this a little simpler and more supportive and increase funding in this area. And this is to nonprofit and for-profit organizations and individual artists. Let's see, and touring projects. Do you want to speak to touring?
The touring part. So, we want to stand up the touring project grant to help artists bring in artists or arts organizations bring artists to Nashville, and also for arts organizations based in Nashville to be able to tour outside. We're going to start it by focusing on the southern states. South Arts has a touring grant program, so we're hoping this will help local organizations leverage the funding that South Arts gives out, and then hopefully use our money and South Arts money and make it go a little bit further. We know that touring takes a lot of effort to get the organizations off the ground, but hopefully this will help it move. And then if it's successful, we'll look at broadening out to the rest of the US as well. And this is also an intentional path to capacity building in organizations. Often smaller organizations don't have a way to tour, and we're hoping our grant project will help get them growing in the capacity in that area as well.
Okay. We're also looking at capacity building and disaster response. Individuals may apply up to 2,500. So this is an area after our years of COVID and tornado response and the different things that keep happening in our community. We want to be able to respond a little bit easier, quicker to those things that happen. And this is they're smaller amounts, but hopefully we can turn them around quicker than our traditional grants making process. So, within the 30 days turnaround is what we're looking at.
So we talked about that. So I will do the next few slides. And as part of our commitment to equity, we're really looking at how we can stand up a capacity building program for small and medium-sized organizations. We don't know yet what the amount will be. It depends a little bit on what we are allocated in next year's budget. But we're hoping we can do multiple year capacity building grants. Our goal is to figure out how we can get the small and medium-sized organizations stabilized and also able to grow into the next tier of growth for them. That's one area in which we're continuing our commitment to equity. The second thing we'll be doing is everything that we're laying out in high level here, when it comes time to build out the grant application, the reporting, all of that we'll do it through a community-led grant editing process. We'll have 3 members each from the small, medium, and large organizations. We'll bring in 3 artists or arts organizations who have not applied before this from us, and we'll have 3 commissioners as part of the editing panel. We have an external consultant who's going to lead us through this process, and by the end of it, we hope that we can come to some sort of consensus around all of the questions and the application material. So it's as streamlined as possible for you in the front end, and then on the back end of it, the reporting will be streamlined and simpler as well. And to get our grant applications be a little more accessible, we're hoping we can have grant workshops in non-traditional spaces with community leaders. We're also hoping to stand up a grant clinic where we will ask you to come in with, say, your bio, your work samples, and financial papers, and there'll be a staff person available, and in a 60-minute window, you'll be able to fill out the application and complete it and hit submit before you go. So we will set up those clinics where staff will help you through your process to apply, especially if you're a first-time applicant. That'll be the category that gets priority, but if you're a returning applicant and you need a little extra help with the application process, we are happy to guide you through that as well.
Chuck's got his hand up, but I know there was a couple of questions that came up that I wanted to touch base on.
Let's just go through the whole thing and then do the questions
Okay.
at the end. Chuck, did you have something else you wanted to say? No.
That's fine. We'll wait till the end. I got you.
Because some of the questions might be answered by the slides that we're
Yeah.
about to talk through. So the next thing we're doing is standing up or broadening our internship program. We have our diversity initiative internship program right now. We're going to broaden that into advocacy and fundraising and general arts administration categories. So any arts organization that wants to work in this area can start finding internships. This again goes back to our idea of capacity building, because this has been something that small and medium-sized organizations have been asking us for a while. So in addition to giving them funding streams, we want to think about how we can build capacity. So touring is one area, and now this internship model will be another area. We'll use our existing model of the internship as an intake to provide new lifeblood to Nashville nonprofits and to shape the infrastructure for the arts world in the years to come. We're increasing the arts awards to 7,500 from 4,500 so that interns will have a little more access. It was really hard to find an intern who can live here for 3 to 4 months on $4,500 and make it be accessible for interns. So we're hoping this will help. We're also hoping to contract directly with the host nonprofit organizations rather than having the intern have to be paid through us, as that was causing some delays and putting really hardships onto a college student who can't afford to pay for these costs upfront. So hopefully this contract will let us pay the host organization, and then in turn pay the intern sooner as well. This is a new program we're hoping to stand up. We're building out a journalism internship program for a city of our size, and with the thriving arts community of our size, we don't have a dedicated arts critic in Nashville. So we really want to figure out how we can make a difference there. We're building it out based on our internship program, but our goal is here to partner with HBCUs or minority serving institutions. We would have $15,000 internships for 5 interns who will serve a year-long internship program, working with a contract editor who will help them write previews or reviews of events or our features. And the contract editor will feed it into a stream, but also will be going out and doing some of the reviewing features and previews. And then we would figure out a way to disseminate all of this work. We're trying to think about outside the box, not just the traditional print online outlets, but we're looking at how we can partner with social media influencers and other partners in the area who are doing similar work. So we'll talk a little bit more once we have some of those ideas in place. But we're thinking about this as a robust internship program across print, online, TV, radio, and social media platforms as we go forward. The other thing, there was some questions in the last public workshop we said was like, well, how will you measure? What does accountability look like? All of this is based on trust-based grant-making models that philanthropies and government agencies are shifting to. So rather than having it be a punitive model or a model that says if you do all this, we'll give you money, we're moving to a trust-based approach. And in the trust-based approach, accountability is a mutual accountability. Just as you hold us accountable, we'll hold you accountable and grow on this together instead of the top-down approach where a panel or a commission dictates who gets how much at what point. And rather than having detailed reports, we will simplify the reporting process. We want to kind of shore up what we've been doing just on the quantitative side with some qualitative analysis as well. And the qualitative work we'll do with our staff that will go out there and we'll be meeting the arts organizations and artists to build up the qualitative portion of the reporting. We want to decouple evaluation and feedback from funding. That's come to be seen as punitive or leftover of traditional white supremacist models of where if you do what we say, we'll give you this much money. So we're trying to decouple that work. And then we'll work on a mutual definition of what impact, goals, and success looks like. So this is just the beginning for us. I will say right now that we'll be apologizing a lot in the coming year. We're making some bold changes. We probably will make some missteps, but we're trying really hard to reduce the harm as we do this and learn together. The next portions of our slides, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but we'll also ask questions like, what are the lessons we will learn together rather than putting out a percentage or a number. You will get to self-determine or we'll mutually self-determine what our lessons learned will be. And we'll also ask for what are the outputs and what are the outcomes that we can, again, mutually self-determine. So it's not something that's going to be it's not something that's going to be predetermined. It's going to be something we determine as we build the project out. So accountability is definitely built in here. It's not that we're just going to give you money without asking for accountability, but it's going to look different than it did in the past. Before we go into questions and feedback, I wanted to just do a couple more things. Sorry, the slides are a little out of order here. I wanted to kind of reaffirm that all these changes are coming from our past reports that we've been reading very carefully from years of feedback from you. And we're also looking at what the industry best practices are moving towards in grant making. So those are the two primary areas of our change. We're also going to use this year, FY24, when we're proposing to make the changes as a pilot to get ready for strategic planning. We're launching an in-depth cultural master plan and strategic planning come April of 2023. That's going to take a whole year, possibly longer. But this prior changes will help us inform those plans and hopefully set the course for us down the road for 5 to 10 years. I'm going to do a couple more slides and we'll ask great questions. And so all of this I'm leading to say is that your help is going to be crucial. Just like you've been giving us feedback when we get ready to present this augmented budget to the mayor and the council, we need all of your input there at the council meeting, writing to your council members and to the mayor's office to get it going. And invite us to our event. You know, we've been really focused heavily on quantitative metrics. And I really want to shift that emphasis to qualitative as well so that we are balanced in our approach. We're looking at the numbers, but we're also looking at the stories behind the numbers and not taking it out of context. So invite us to your events. Staff will try to make an effort to be there. I will try to make an effort to be there. Commissioners are making an effort to being there at these events. And so really being there to get to know you. Tag us in the social media. Tell us your success stories. We want to feature you in our newsletters. So if you have something coming up that you want us to share out, we're happy to put it out there as well. So those are all of our advocacy items. Did you want to say something?
Well,
Go to questions.
There's a couple of questions I want to answer, but also, yeah, just piggybacking on what you said. We want y'all to stop having to compete with one another and spend your time advocating for increased funding. And I mean, our grants budget up until last year was the same and it had been 20 years ago. It was $2.5 million 20 years ago. and it was 2.5 million last year. We did get a $500,000 increase this year. So you did get some increases, but it tells you how far behind we are in funding. So moving more towards a simplified process and the opportunity for you to tell your stories. It is more about the stories. I know the council members, when we meet with them, it's their personal stories they have where they visited one of the organization's activities. That's what they take home. I don't know how much of the data they really, that we collect and give, that they really read or if they're aware of or understand. So I'd rather give you the opportunity to tell your story than you spend all your time on paperwork. Somebody had asked about a couple of things. One, in the past, I know project grants or creative grants organizations were allowed to apply for. I don't know why, but I guess just trying to reduce the number of grants, they stopped allowing organizations to apply for these for creation grants or project grants. And so we're looking at seeing if we can't open that up to organizations to also be able to apply for the project grants or find opportunities there. That's one area that we're looking at. The other question is venue rental. For some reason, they took that out as a legitimate expense within the grants process, that you could not use the funds for venue rental. And I don't know, just about every community theater I dealt with in the past, that's where they needed the funds to be applied to. So I believe we're going to remove that restriction of venue rental, facilities rental as a restricted expense. I don't know if we have it. I think that's all I have at the moment. I guess we can open up to additional questions.
Is the removal of the basic grants? It's Ian, can you answer that? The match, is it required for large organizations?
Ian mentioned he had to go step away for a family thing.
Okay. So the question was, is the match requirement there for the large organizations?
No, I mean, we won't require a match for
Small
organizational
and medium,
grants.
but
For
also
small or
large.
medium and large, it wouldn't,
Large, okay.
none of it, we wouldn't need
Let
require a
me
match.
clarify that for you. Ian will know the accurate answer on that, but we'll clarify that. I thought we said large organizations. Because we got feedback from large organizations that they use our grants to go out and fundraise, and that having a match requirement is helpful for the large organizations. So we're still kind of
Okay.
fine tuning it as we go along. So
Yeah.
let's check and we'll get back to you on that question. But again, this is open to your feedback. So tell us what's helpful for you, and we're happy to move in that direction. Any other questions? You can come off mute and ask your question. You don't have to just type it in. I see a hand. Sorry, Sharon, do you want to go first? And then I'll get Benjamin and then Celine.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you for everything you're doing. This is very exciting. This has infused a lot of wonderful new ideas that really sounds like it's gonna jumpstart the Nashville arts community. So thank you for all that work. And I had a quick question about disbursement of funds, where we usually do the 40% and then how is that going forward? What's the plan going forward for the disbursement of funds?
My understanding right now, if we're not expecting, well, this is where we're looking at match and the different, if we're going at this route, then we'll be able to fund 100% on organizational grants with one payment. There's still some discussion as, do we hold back a 10% or some
We
small
might
amount
hold back a
to-
small amount just to get the final
closeout,
reported.
to push for a closeout.
Yeah.
But again, the idea is we're still about trusting, we still know you're gonna do the work and you're still wanting to come back the following year for funding. So what do we do? How do we how do we hold everyone still accountable, but yet also trust that everyone will do the right thing? Yeah, but so we're looking at a full payment, but I don't know that it'll be, or that we can.
And I think if you have a simplified application, our goal is to get contracts signed and checks paid in 45 days for next year. I'm on record here saying this. So you can all hold me and shoot me next year when we fail this. But this is our goal for next year, is to really, in 45 days from the time you sign the contract, to get you paid. We're just now closing out FY23 reports. It's that detailed that 4 months after close out the fiscal year where staff have finished closing it out. So that's where the backlog is, and we're hoping that by simplifying these reports, everything will speed up a little bit.
Yeah, I know everybody's asking about their payments and first payments, and we've had holdups with legal things going back and forth because of those small little things that we put in our application. They come back and go, well, what about this and what about that and what about, so every time we put something into our application, it has a carryover effect of so many times over that we're all accountable for. So trying to simplify it will speed up everything else. Well, it'll make everything move a lot quicker. So even our payment process should speed up considerably.
Thanks for the question, Sharon. How about Benjamin?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for all this work. I definitely was someone putting in the feedback in terms of streamlining the applications to make them more accessible. So thank you for your response to that. I appreciated your comment up front about sustaining existing investments. So that's important for us. And I think that's probably where the highest anxiety resides for me and for us. So I appreciated that thought. Probably my least favorite comment that comes out of the Metro Arts Commission is when an email goes out and says, sorry, there's so many arts organizations that wanted to do stuff this year, or so many projects that we couldn't fund this, or we had to cut back on this. And it doesn't seem like a responsible stewardship over the resources. Is like, if you don't have the resources to start new initiatives and projects, don't divest or scatter your investments and make it harder for us to sustain existing programs because you have additional ideas or additional things you want to do. That's very frustrating to read, especially sent from folks who have very secure jobs and secure benefits. So that's just a thought that I've had for a while when I see that. And when I see a lot of the new initiatives that you're looking at doing, that'd be my ask too. It's like, great that you're increasing Thrive to $10,000. But we get paid $20,000 to run a 7-week summer program, which isn't enough. So like, just my ask is to look at your existing investments and ask whether they're sustainable, especially in the cost of living in New Nashville. As you go through all this, and don't start new projects if you haven't sustained existing projects. So those are that's not really a question, but that's just an ask as you go along.
No, that's a really valid point, and really harm reduction is like really something that's important to all of us. And so we are committed to trying to keep the funding levels at least at what you received and not reducing it before we make changes. And so a lot of this is really going to come down to, again, all of us advocating as a whole to the council and the mayor to get the money we need to make the changes. And for small and medium-sized organizations, we want to have capacity building programs that are separate from operating or Thrive grants, so that you can build the capacity you need to become sustainable over long term. So we are committed to that. And yes.
Cool. Thank you for that comment. I just had one other thought. I don't know how this is going to play out, but we're right over the $500,000 line. So I don't know how that will play out, but it just seems bad to me to be categorized with the FRIST and TPAC as a large organization. I don't think over $5,000 is really considered a large organization in the nonprofit landscape. So I just raised that flag now, and I'm interested to see how that will play out.
Well, within the funding category, they'll be cut down into additional categories within, so you'll still be funded with like organizations and budgets that are closer to yours.
Okay.
You're not going to be funded at the same level that the percentage of your budget as the symphony would. So
I guess what I'm saying is, whatever rules you make up for that category, probably might need to be differentiated between organizations our size and the size of the FRIST or TPAC.
Right.
Again, just like raising that flag as you think through what that means to be part of those categories.
The categories that are set right now are more about the 990 and what you file with IRS, so you're not doing something different and separate. So right now, those categories are just set for the basic qualification requirements, but they are not where the funding will fall exactly. So, but we'll be looking at flat funding, but it'll be at a graduated level for each
cohort.
Yeah, with each cohort. That's a good word.
I'm listing that, well, partly funding, but also stuff like capacity building, right? Like when you make up rules like, okay, we're going to give capacity building grants to small and medium-sized organizations, but not large. Like we still need capacity building, you know, we're not coasting. So that's the sort of rulemaking that might be attached to those categories that would impact us.
Yeah, we definitely hear you on that. So as we make the application, we'll have, like we mentioned before, we'll have a cohort of 3 from small, 3 from medium, 3 from large, 3 non-applicants, and 3 commissioners who will sit in this and go through all of these percentage rules, questions. And so hopefully we can arrive at some consensus that's useful for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
So there's a question in the chat from Kim. The grant deadlines will be the same as the past. Yes, we're going to try to keep that. One of the reasons we're trying to stick with that is that hopefully by this model, we'll be able to go to the mayor and say, based on our applicants, this is the budget we need from you, rather than waiting for the mayor to say, this is how much we're giving you. And then we could turn around and say, how many small slices can we cut the small slice of pie we got? You know, we're trying to get ahead of that and go to the mayor and say, we have all these applications that came in. Here's how we want to fund them. Here's what we need from you to fund it at this level. And hopefully the mayor and the council will give us that. So the calendar will remain the same. So I see Celine's hand up.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for all of this. It's been great to hear about these proposed changes. I would kind of piggyback a little bit on Benjamin's comment about concern over funding levels increasing for other initiatives outside of operating funding. And I also kind of have some questions around, you know, baseline eligibility for grant applicants, because, you know, if there's not kind of an adjudicated grant process, you know, what's the cutoff? Do you anticipate, or is there an opportunity for kind of an influx, an unexpected influx of new arts organizations coming into the pool, which would then dilute grant amounts? Is there a contingency plan, I guess, is a question that I have for organizations to make sure that people aren't getting any kind of drastic reductions in their grant award amounts. And I think also, you know, so that's a question that I have, and maybe a general wondering. I also am curious if y'all are externally fundraising for things like the touring grant or other, you know, the internship programs. I love the Arts Critic programs, but it is a big concern that, you know, that's going to take away from the operating pot, which is where, you know, so much of us rely. And then I have a second question just about Thrive eligibility. In the past, Metro Arts grant recipients haven't been eligible for that because it's been a vendor relationship. And if you receive Metro Arts funding, you were not eligible for Thrive. And with the creation grants and the project grants, the arts education project grants going away, will the Thrive program be available to Metro Arts grant recipients?
So yeah,
those are my questions.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Celine. Let me. So you know, your first and second questions slightly contradict each other. You say you're worried about influx of new applicants, but at the same time, as an applicant for operating, you also want the Thrive grant. So I'm just kind of raising that up because we're all trying to lift up together as a group together. And so I would, like to, I want to keep reassuring all of us to get out of this old model of this zero-sum game, that if applicant A gets something, applicant B has to be reduced. I think we are trying to change that dynamic and take back that kind of model and say there's enough money to go around. Our total budget is 2.5 million in a 2 billion city budget. And I think we did lose the kind of the momentum by not having an arts advocacy arm that was stood up. So we're really trying to work on that. So I want us to like move from a spirit of generosity and not be worried about scarcity models like the past, which the commission and staff didn't stay on top of. I'm committing to get on top of that and get us the funding we need. We will definitely be looking at private funding outside of us to stand up a lot of the programs we're doing. But also the programs we're doing comes from requests from applicants saying, we need capacity building, give us internships. We need someone to give us a feature of our arts organizations like the defunct, I forget whatever was in the past, and said, we don't have a way to get our name out in the media, help us with that. So we're not just going out and creating programs because someone wants to. We have enough work here to like drown us for the next 3 years. A lot of the programs we're standing up is from feedback. So it's not kind of devoid of that. So saying all that, I really am mindful of what your operating needs are, and we are committed to like keeping the levels at that, at least at that, if not if we can increasing it. And we are going to foundations and nonprofits that are giving out money to arts organizations, arts agencies like us to raise that money. Did I say everything? Did you want to say something?
I did. I think you may have covered it. I think the idea is that we're not, don't look at each other if you're competing amongst one another. We need to build the demand and show the demand that's there. It is there.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about diversity and accessibility, there's a lot of organizations, a lot of people out there wanting to do work, and our process is not easy and not a simple process. And so we, where we want to grow and need to grow, this is how we're going to do it. And again, building this demand is how we're going to go to the council and the mayor and increase the funding that's long overdue.
Sorry, so I remember what I didn't answer in your question. You had asked if like, what is the mechanism for accountability if everyone just gets funding if they come in? So everyone's not going to get funding. We'll still have an independent panel review, just like we've always done. They're all made up of community members. Staff won't be involved in the panel review. So let's say we have 5 criteria for rubric in the rubric that gets an up or down vote. I'm making this up. This is not a regular rubric. One might be budget, one might be community engagement, one might be equity, and the other one might be years of service. I'm just making these up. So in those 5 categories, each one would have to get an up or down vote by the panel members. And we'd have a base cutoff that says, out of the 5 categories, at least 3 have to have an upvote for you to be able to get your funding. What we're trying to stop doing is last year, we gave a grant for $630. Staff spent over $3,000 worth of staff time to pay the $600 grant. It's not, I'm just trying to like make some of those processes a little more efficient, because that $600 came from our really complicated rubric where someone scored 63.8% points or something, and they asked for 2,500, and based on the scoring, they're going to get 600 out of the 2,500, and it created this whole song and dance in the application process. And then we have to ask for amended reports, and then we have to have a report of the final that was different. And so we're trying to like cut down on some of that. That's why we're changing this up or down vote. There's still going to be an evaluation process that's driven by the community. It's public taxpayer dollars, so we're not removing the public oversight at all. We'll just simplify some of that going forward. So I think if there's a great influx of applicants, I think that's a wonderful problem to have. It means I have homework and the commissioners have homework to go and fundraise. If it's not within the mayor's budget, we'll find outside money to fund it. We are committed to not cutting funding for it. And if I left anything out, feel free to email us and we'll make sure we get to your questions. So I see Sarah Catherine's hand is up for a question.
Yeah, thank you for this. I think one of the things I hear is that, I mean, I knew that the mayor's funding, the funding for Metro Council has traditionally not kept up with the times and now inflation and everything. And that there needs to be more funding that comes from Metro, and that a part of that process is advocating and advocacy. Even myself working at a larger organization, we have a pretty small like fundraising staff and a small team to advocate for that. And I didn't know if y'all kind of thought through providing resources for organizations to advocate and how to do that. Because frankly, I've tried to do it and I feel like I've had zero success. And so don't know if that has kind of come up
Yeah.
in
So we
this
have some
process.
ideas. We're hoping to do like a arts town hall with council members who are possibly running at large or
For the mayor's.
and for the mayor's race. We would love for them to come and
What-
get to meet our artists and talk about what their vision of the artist so that then we can build our program and partner it with
Yeah,
them.
this is campaign season. This is the time you do ask for it. This is our best opportunity. What organization are you with? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
I'm at Cheekwood Estate and Gardens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, you have probably a great opportunity with the board that governs your organizations. Your board members have a lot of access politically, and we know that of a lot of organizations. So you shouldn't always rely on the staff. You should be able to reach out to your own board to assist, to advocate. you know.
But we hear you, and we are building a template for advocacy, and
Yeah.
that says if you're an individual artist, here's what you can do. Tag your council member, give us a story. If you're a little more capacity, here's what you can do. So we'll have like a one pager of advocacy, and we'll share that out with you. And we want to like use your events to use them as advocacy anchors rather than having you do an extra work or extra lift.
We had a few years back at Cheekwood, a great mayoral forum where all the mayoral candidates came and spoke. It spoke to the arts organizations at Cheekwood. I know we had few hundred people attend.
Yeah, I think where I am is I've done more advocacy like with or seen more resources or done more of that on like the federal level, and it's asking for increased funding. And I frankly don't know if I've like seen any changes with that. And I just I mean, I know that's maybe takes a lot of little steps to get to there. And just sometimes advocacy is those conversations with people, and then sometimes the resources that I read say write to your representative. I'm like, well, do they actually read those things that I send them? You know, because I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just kind of hard to know the small and big things that we're doing. Are the small things working? Are they even worth doing? And so just from y'all's perspective, y'all are kind of being the link between the organizations and Metro, if you had any advice on that. I think it's just a little confusing for some of the you know, I'm not the CEO, so I only have so much, you know, sway within my organization. So
Well, and again, this is why we go back to the Thrive grants and trying to find ways to get smaller grants into these areas where like for Cheekwood, you're in an area in a neighborhood that's pretty affluent. It's, you know, the council members are pretty aware of what's in their, you know, of your facilities and your story. They may not know all your story though. They still might not. You know, frequently I've been out there where people go, oh, I haven't been out here in a long time. This is the greatest place. That during that mayoral forum, we heard that over and over again because we brought so many people out to Cheekwood. And you know, so, but working on this other grant and trying to expand our Thrive grants to be more accessible, that's going to get us a little more of a FaceTime with some of the other council members and other people out in the outlying areas where we're generally not served. So us expanding Thrive or doing more with our project grants is about expanding our advocacy efforts. So everything supports the other. We're all in this together. We really are.
And I know it's kind of scary to hear changes and not think it's going to be a reduction. But I really kind of want us to keep thinking about the spirit of generosity as we do that. But really, we hear you, Sarah. Like we have been lax on advocacy, and we are working to get better at that and find ways to do it so that it's not a big lift for you. But if we are collective and we do it at the same time, all of our little droplets can become a little tsunami of awareness, and that's what we're hoping we can do. And we're building out the template for you to do.
I don't
Yes.
want to.
Yeah,
don't
and my comment was not because, I mean, I'm a larger organization, so we receive more funding, but my desire for Metro Arts as a whole to receive more funding is not so that Cheekwood gets more. It's so that if there's something I can do to help everybody else, then I want to be able to know how to do that well. So
We're going to hold you to that. We're going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is Cheekwood used to get more. They did. And it's funny that, you know, your amount that you receive is quite a bit less than it used to be. I don't know that that's right. I was going to mention, I see Benjamin, who I haven't talked to in a while, is on here, and he came. That's I don't want to pick on Benjamin, but he came with Southern Word several years ago, and I assure you, there are a lot of organizations that actually said they don't belong here, and that's, you know, that was he had a great uphill battle just to be included in the process. And I think it's an amazing organization. It does amazing work, and I want to see more organizations like Southern Word and people like Benjamin who go out of their way to make it happen. And if we don't change our process, we're not going to have that.
Any other questions, comments, ways we can make it better for you? So be on the lookout, and in the next few weeks, we'll be setting up a call for editors to the grant application. And then from there, we'll go to the selection process. We hope to have the editing happen the week of November 28th, roughly. And then we will present the final changes that the community members have developed to the commission in December. And we will launch our grants on schedule in January as we move forward. I again want to close and reassure you all that we are trying really hard not to cut funding to anyone. That's going to be our #1 focus as we build this out. And then the second part of it is to like build your capacity, really thinking about how we can build capacity for the organizations to move up into the next ecosystem. Yes, I see a hand here from Jenna.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I just wanted to echo that. I know it's late, but I just wanted to echo that this is really inspiring work that is happening in Nashville. I'm excited to see where it goes. I work at Americans for the Arts in DC, and we are just kind of like trying to scream this from the rooftop. So it's really inspiring. Y'all are in a beautiful arts and culture community, and I am grateful to even hear the last edges of this conversation. So just wanted to just name that as really a pivotal model for the rest of the nation, actually. So I'm really excited for you all.
Thank you so much for being here. I know you're so busy, so we appreciate you making time. Great, so this recording will be available on our website. We're also keeping our FAQ. If anyone comes up with a question, we want to put it up on our FAQ so that no one gets more information than anyone else. So all of that, this recording, the slides, and the FAQ will be on the website. So we'll compile all the questions from the first session and this session, and that'll go up on the website. So thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate your time.